Hello, welcome back to the Zero Excuses podcast. My name is Kenyon Ziska, and I want to welcome you to today's show. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Today's guest is Caitlin Sampson, who is the founder of TrueFoodAndWellness.com and is also the author of the Rheumatoid Arthritis Cookbook. Today we discuss how she has used nutrition and exercise to find relief from a whole host of health issues she's experienced, both during her childhood and as an adult. Today, she's used that inspiration to help others find relief from issues such as fatigue, PCOS, and a whole host of other issues. Before we get into today's interview, just want to remind you guys of a couple things we got going on. First is I invite you guys to head over to our Facebook group. That's at facebook.com/groups/Zero Excuses. Excuses is spelled XCUSES. Second thing I want to remind you of is to head on over to iTunes, leave us a review if you enjoyed today's show. And without any further ado, let's jump into the interview with Caitlin. All right, Caitlin, well, thanks for taking the time to jump on the podcast here. Really excited to have you. I know we've known each other for a few years. I'm not going to hide that fact. But one thing I didn't know about you is that you were dealing with a few issues yourself, and you've kind of overcome that obstacle and have kind of parlayed that into nutritionist type practice. So I'm really excited to talk to you about that. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and kind of tell us what you're up to today, and then we'll kind of start jumping back in time and going through your little struggles there.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, thanks for having me. I was excited to be invited.
Yeah, no worries.
Share this with others, hopefully to inspire others. But I guess I'll just try to make it concise, but I did have a pretty significant health history. Looking back, I guess I thought the way I felt was normal, but looking back, I realized I had a lot of health issues since I was young. I remember being in pretty bad pain with my joints, my knees, my hands and feet especially. Actually, my oldest sister had said to me the other week after she had read my book that I put out, she said, I remember you complaining about your feet and hands hurting a lot. So, but we just kind of thought it was normal. I grew up in Buffalo, New York, where it's cold and it seemed cold weather. So we just thought, well, it's the cold, this is just something to deal with. And I come from a big family, and I guess when you're one of the youngest, my parents have seen everything, so it was kind of like, you'll be okay.
Yeah, kind of brushed it under the rug, didn't think much of it.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think they were being neglectful at all. They didn't realize it was that serious. I didn't think it was either. Again, just thought it was a pain I should be in. Come to find out, it was rheumatoid arthritis that I had. And, I kind of just dealt with it for so long. And then in high school, I had my gallbladder out when I was 16 years old. And that should tell you right there that something's not going right in my body at a young age. But we just thought it was a fluke thing. Doctors were just so surprised that somebody my age needed their gallbladder out. And the way that came about was I actually had pretty bad pain, gallbladder pain, for about a year, before it got to the point where a stone was passing through into my pancreas. And it was probably 2 a.m. And I remember waking up, just throwing up, couldn't stop. And nothing was helping. The pain was getting worse, really. I went up to my mom. She called the doctor. He said, it's probably her appendix. Bring her in right away. So we go to the ER, and I'll never forget it. I could hardly even stand and get in the car because it was so painful. So if anyone listening has had pancreatitis, I can relate to how terrible that pain is. And they say there's just, that and probably kidney stones, they say are pretty painful. So anyways, they said if I would have waited any longer, I would have been dead. So that tells you how serious it was. My pancreas was so inflamed from the gallstone passing through. So they found that my gallbladder was full of sludge, they said, and it needed to come out. So about a month later, the inflammation died down enough. They put me on a liquid diet, and I was able to have my gallbladder out. So just kept eating the way I was eating. I mean, I felt great after that was out. I was like, okay, I can go back to that diet that I had. And I will say, I always thought I ate pretty healthy. I grew up on a farm eating fruits,
Oh
vegetables.
yeah.
You know, my family and our lifestyle was pretty much like get it from the garden and have
Yeah.
it for, and we never really went out to eat because there's so many of us. So to afford that was really hard. But I was a sugar addict, huge sugar addict. I mean, I remember coming home from school, putting the white sugar with the Kool-Aid packet, mixing it together and eating that. I mean, I just never thought anything of it. And it was that fat-free era too, where it was like, you can eat all the Twizzlers and marshmallows you want.
Yeah, as long as you didn't eat fat, you were okay.
Exactly.
Yep.
I totally fell for that, ate lots of marshmallows and all that. So anyways, the health issues just started to keep going. You know, when I was in college, I started running, and that helped me a lot to manage stress and bring my weight down and all of these things. So that really got me tuned into health and exercise. So after I got my degree in biology, I went and got my master's in exercise science because I loved exercise and just thought it for me. I'm so passionate about it. But my health was still not great. So what finally kind of tipped it over to really do something about it was when I didn't get a menstrual cycle for over a year. My mom said, you know what, you got to go back into the doctor and see what's going on. But every time I went, I just felt like dumb for being in there because they'd look at me like I was crazy. I was really overweight. I looked pretty healthy, but I was so tired all the time. And I was told that, well, every woman complains about being tired. They wouldn't thyroid. They wouldn't, you know, there were a couple things I just asked for. Hey, can we check this? They didn't see a need to, which was really unfortunate because I had a lot of stuff going on that they didn't take seriously, and it could have been addressed sooner. But you get led down a certain path for a reason. So my sister had said, come and see this. Well, actually, before even that, their solution for me was pretty much, here's your birth control and take that. And they did find that I had polycystic ovarian syndrome, and that was what was causing me to not get my menstrual cycle. But I did take the birth control because I didn't know what else to do. Within 2 days, I stopped because I was agitated. I remember being at work, like really thought I was going to kill somebody. I was not myself. I was like out of my skin.
Right.
Like, I don't even know who I am. What is this doing to me? I was in bed at 7 o'clock each night. I couldn't stay awake. It was very bizarre. And it scared me. And so I just said, I'm done with this. I'll just hope things normalize. I'm just going to hope and pray.
Yeah. And how old were you at this point? You said you had your gallbladder out at 16 and then things kind of started spiraling back downward right after that, or?
You know, it got better for a while. I had a lot of digestive issues, which came, I think, partly from having gallbladder out, but also I had irritable bowel syndrome as well. I mean, to the point of, I remember when I first started dating my husband, the poor guy, I'd be like, you need to find me a bathroom now. Like, there's no waiting. Because I just had the irritable bowel syndrome as well. So there was a lot of issues still going on that I thought was due to my gallbladder being out. But I think it was also the way I was eating because I don't have those issues anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was about age 25, I would say. So, you know, about 10 years later or so. So I was still going through all this for that long period of time.
And what was your mindset at that point? Where you're just like, you know, is this, you know, just another thing in a series of things that you had to deal with, or did you kind of have a mindset of, you know, I got to kind of be like a Sherlock Holmes and kind of figure this out? What was your mind like at that point?
Oh, I guess I still thought it was just normal. I thought that this is kind of how I'd have to live my life. I didn't really think what's going on inside my body. I didn't really think like that. I mean, a little bit, I guess, to take a different route, but I didn't really understand fully, I don't think, how the body works to really, you know, fully grasp like, oh, you know, my reproductive system isn't working for some reason. I don't know. It was kind of weird. It's like, it didn't make sense to me. It's common sense, right? I mean, our bodies are designed to work a certain way. But I didn't really see that until I went through my health journey a little bit further and started to get better, that I noticed my body is now doing what it should do. I'm removing things that were interfering with it.
Yeah.
So I can relate to people where they're like, well, how are you going to help me with food? Like, they don't really fully get it yet because you almost have to just start trusting in the process.
Yeah.
And then little by little. And I always know that I don't have to tell them, oh, I can get you better. You know, just take this first step and you're going to see it on your own, you know, that it will happen. So yeah, I just, well, my sister said, come and see this practitioner with me. He's helping me a lot. And I thought, well, I'll do anything at this point. I trust my sister, and if she's getting the help she needs in a more natural way, I'm all about it. Yeah. I didn't know what myself into it all, but I said, here we go, because I don't know what else to do. I saw this practitioner who helped me tremendously find areas of my diet that really needed improvement. I thought he would look at my diet and say, oh, that's perfect. Don't need to see you anymore.
Yeah.
I was circling things. I realized then my sugar addiction was really bad. And I mean, I was the one who was eating like Nature Valley granola bars, thinking it was healthy, the Kashi cookies, thinking they were healthy. And if you add this sugar up throughout the day, you're getting in a lot. I mean, a Kashi cookie, I think the chocolate chip ones, it's like 15 grams of sugar in one. I mean, the limit for women, they say be under 25 grams a day. So by eating one of those, I was already at 15 out of my 25. And I would have like 10 Oreos after dinner because I was running like 6 miles. So I thought I can do whatever I want. But the food was still coming in, and it was affecting the functioning of my body. So even though I wasn't overweight and I was doing all this exercise to burn the calories off, I was still putting junk in.
Yeah. Yep.
So he helped me tremendously. I mean, I said, if his program really works for me, I will physically see the sign of my period coming back. And 8 weeks later, it did.
Wow.
And he had off artificial sweeteners, which I think were a huge thing that were really affecting my reproductive system as well. So those were 2 huge things he helped me with, getting off the sugar, the artificial sweeteners. I also noticed when I got off the pasteurized dairy that I had no more digestive issues. So that helped me a lot as well. So there's just a lot of foods I was sensitive to. I didn't know immediately, I didn't have a reaction, but it might have been like a day later that I had the joint pain and things like that. So what happened was over time, I realized my joint pain's gone. And that's when it clicked, like, oh my gosh, what I was eating was affecting my joints, because I was able to train for my last marathon that I did pretty much pain-free. I mean, you have the normal aches and pains with running 20 miles for a training run, but this was different. This was like that ache in my hands and my elbows was gone. Now, if I remember one time splurging on Greek yogurt. I was like, I haven't had Greek yogurt in a long time. I'm gonna, try this out. And I had way too much of it, and I could hardly walk again. Wow. It was, I mean, I remember my now husband, he was like, oh my gosh, this is awful. Like, he thought he was going to have to like literally carry me to get into my bed because I was in so much pain. And so that told me, but that was a good learning experience to know that food really affected how I felt.
So how far back was this first visit to the nutritionist? Was this like a couple years ago, or was this like 5 years ago? I mean, how long ago was this?
Yeah, that was probably, I would say 8 years ago or so.
Okay.
Did it all.
Yeah. So in the course of this time, you've really kind of taken a passion to helping other people out, getting their nutrition straight. And, are you focusing strictly on rheumatoid arthritis, or are you focusing on any sort of autoimmune type illnesses and afflictions?
Well, yes, it did inspire me to go back to school. So once all this started happening, a light bulb went off. Basically, it was like, why didn't I get this? That everything you put into your body affects every cell of your body, how your body runs. Like I'll tell my clients, would you put the wrong fuel in your car and expect it to run right? No, same thing. And so we've got to put the right stuff in. And that's what just clicked to me. So it really got me interested in the science of nutrition. And that's why I went back to get another master's degree in applied clinical nutrition, because I just felt like I got to share this with the world, but I need that credibility. I mean, I have the personal story, but I need the science to back that up, and I wanted to learn more too.
Yeah.
So I got my master's degree and then started my own business. So I do work with folks who have autoimmune issues. I have had folks with rheumatoid arthritis, multiple sclerosis, Lyme disease, autism, pretty serious conditions, really. And then I'll folks who are like, hey, I want to lose weight, that maybe it's not such a chronic, severe issue that they're dealing with, but we still have to go back to that piece of, what are you eating that is inflaming your body, causing that inflammation, causing the interference to you losing weight. So it's always kind of coming back to that piece of being on an anti-inflammatory diet, which maybe some of you heard about. And that basically would be diet that helps bring down the inflammation in your body to support your immune system, to really just help your cells function like they should. So that would be, real good whole foods, your vegetables and fruits and healthy fats. It's just really unique to each individual, though. I will say, like someone with rheumatoid arthritis, if you read my book, there are some restrictions there because they're reacting to a lot of different foods, a lot of different grains even. For me, I had to really lay off, and I still kind of lay off like brown and white rice. Well, you hear brown rice is great, but it might not be great for everybody.
Yeah, it's not a one-size-fits-all type solution. You really got to kind of, for me, I like to keep a journal of exercises that work for me, and you almost have to do the same thing with your nutrition and see what works for you and what doesn't work for you, and kind of tailor these, these diets that might have these pretty packaged bows on them, like the paleo or the keto diet. There isn't a one-size-fits-all. You really got to pay attention to how you react to different foods, and I definitely can relate to a lot of what you're saying, because I've been through a few issues here and there myself. Nothing as bad as what you've described, but little aches and pains like plantar fasciitis. I used to get hellacious shin splints when I ran, and I've noticed shifting to like a keto style diet, and I did that more for weight loss and long distance endurance type events, fitness events that I do. But I definitely noticed a huge benefit to the aches and pains. They're almost non-existent now that I've really paid attention to my diet. What you described is kind of very similar to me. So yeah. I definitely can relate.
Yeah, it's bringing down the inflammation, because pain and inflammation are linked together. So the way I like to explain that inflammation piece, because some people will be like, well, how do I know if I'm inflamed? What does that even mean? Because, if we get a cut and we see the wound, we know that our body's trying to repair. That's an immediate reaction. We see that occurring. But chronic inflammation is more like low grade, happening every day. We might not even know it. We might not necessarily feel it. But if we have diabetes, high blood pressure, chronic diseases like that, cancer, this is all linked to inflammation.
Yeah.
Inflammation that we don't necessarily feel, because I've had clients say, I don't feel inflamed, and sometimes I can see that they are inflamed. They might have that redness, or maybe not that clear skin, or maybe swollenness, and I'm like, I can even see that, yes, there is the inflammation there. So I always like to just make sure people understand, what are we talking about with inflammation, but if you have aches and pains, that's a sign your body may be going through some inflammation. That's why you're experiencing that.
Yeah, so your body's reaction telling you maybe you aren't supposed to be eating certain foods, and we've become accustomed to these packaged processed foods that are right in front of us, right on the billboards. We're becoming almost brainwashed into that's what we're supposed to eat, instead of eating the whole foods and eating the even some of the meats that we buy at the store. They're being fed the same processed junk, and then we're then eating that same stuff in our meat. So it's really a compounding problem throughout society, I think. And if we pay attention to what we're eating, I think a lot of these cancers, I'm not saying that fixing our diet is going to cure cancer, but I think we can we can take responsibility for our own health and significantly reduce our risk for a lot of these these issues that are prominent in society these days.
Right, exactly. And you really have to look at not just like that label. Everybody just focuses so much on calories, but what is in there? Look at the ingredients. I always say to my folks, go right to the ingredient list, because you want to know if they've added sugar or are there food dyes in there. One of my clients had brought in some samples of prenatal vitamins that she was given, and I looked at them and I said, you know what? I'm not comfortable with you taking these. There's food dyes in them.
Yeah.
It's prenatal vitamin, so even stuff like that, it's like, and I feel for people that are like, I'm confused, but my thing is like, hey, let's try to make it simple and just focus on the real food, the whole foods, the most you can. And that's one ingredient foods. You know what an avocado is. You're right. They are changing some of these things and adding things into it. So our meats, or even the whole gluten debate, really what I've read lately is a lot of the problem with wheat is not only, the gluten's part of the issue. There's a lot of gluten in our bread nowadays, but they're spraying the wheat with these fungicides and pesticides, that's why we're reacting a lot to it. So it's how we're changing the food that maybe once was a healthy food, but isn't now a healthy food. And I've seen people even with like corn, people having issues with corn. Well, what have we done to corn? Most of it's genetically modified, where they've changed that genetic structure of it. So our bodies, really do best with things found in nature that haven't been tweaked so much. And I just don't think we've yet really caught up. They say on the scale of evolution, we really haven't evolved to digest the processed food, all the like that. And that makes sense to me. Like, I feel like anybody could understand, well, that does make sense. Our bodies are pretty much close to nature, and we do best digesting real food that it can recognize. And if it can't recognize it, it's hard to digest.
Yeah. So I'm sure your book has been, I read through it, and it's really good. But for people who might not have read it, and maybe this is starting to resonate with them, what are some, I guess, maybe the top 3 things that you might want to tell people that they may be able to implement right now that they can, tomorrow they can implement into their diets very, very easily, or any lifestyle changes?
I think, and maybe it's because I was such a sugar addict, maybe still am at heart a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
to just start watching that. Because I was talking to somebody earlier who this guy had said, no, my diet's great, but he's not losing weight. He's not reaching the goals he wants. And so looking at it a little further, we were able to determine that there was a lot of things with added sugar in his diet. So I would just say, start taking a look at that. Like I said, the limitation there for women, the American Heart Association has said 25 grams or less. The less, the better. For men, they say, I believe, about 35 grams. So just see where you're at. Check your flavored yogurts out. Check any granola bars you have. You could easily swap that out. Just think about simple changes you could make. I was doing Nature Valley granola bars. I just had to switch that to an apple with some almonds, or an apple with some almond butter. Great change, easy change, and help me with my energy, which I had no energy. Forgot to mention that.
And delicious too.
And delicious, and so much more nutrition than something processed. So take a look at the added sugar and just see little changes that you can make. And I guess that brings me to number 2, is that try not to get overwhelmed, because I will tell you, when they first started with me, they just worked the first week till 10 a.m. That's when I had to keep out the sugar, just till 10 a.m. the first week. The next week was 12 p.m. The next week was 2 p.m. And I knew I had to avoid it completely, because that's obviously what was the goal, but they didn't want me to feel like a failure. So whatever small step you can take, great. And it will just evolve from there. Like, now I'm doing so much more than I ever thought I would. Now I'm able to like make my own beauty products and things like that I never thought I would do, but it starts to just build and build and build. So start where you can. And number 3, I guess I'd say, part of the book does cover like positive thinking. And I think that's an important piece of a health journey, because looking back, I could have been really pissed off at my doctors, and at times I was, but I had to just get over it and realize this is a blessing. I'm able to help other people. I can relate to pretty much every single issue my clients come in with, because I've had them all.
Yeah.
Understand, we're going to get you to a better place. Just trust me, But try to look at it like, this is a journey. This is really exciting. This is my new life. And along those lines, if you screw up, it's a learning experience. I'll tell you, I had a moment where I had a withdrawal. I was searching the house for sugar. I found graham crackers, totally binged on them. My knee pain came back. And that's how I learned the connection between what I was eating and how my body was reacting. So, if you screw up, it's not a failure, it's a learning experience. And that all comes back to this positive thought process of, hey, I can do this. If you say you can't do it, you're not gonna be able to do it. So really get that good mindset as well to help carry you through.
Yeah, I love that. I'm big on mindset, and it took me a long time to adopt a positive mindset like that, and kind of look at everything that happens to you isn't good or bad. It's just, it is, and we have the choice to give meaning to it. So you can choose to give positive meaning to everything that happens to you, and to take it as a learning experience. So I love that third point there. So we're starting to run out of time here. But I want to make sure that I gave you a little bit of time to tell folks how we can connect with you. If people are interested in working with you, how can they get in touch with you? How can they get your book, etc.?
Awesome. Yeah. So probably the easiest thing is going right to my website, truefoodandwellness.com. That's all spelled out, TRUE. And you'll find my phone number there, email, even, other accounts like Twitter and stuff like that if you want to follow me on there, and Facebook. I try to post some good articles and things there. And the cookbook is titled The Rheumatoid Arthritis Cookbook. And you can find that on Amazon. It's even in some Barnes and Nobles. So just check on their site to see if it's carried at one near you. And, feel free to give me your feedback. I would love to hear if you've tried any recipes, what you've liked, and even what you haven't liked. I'm open to both types of feedback. Hope that if you do get the book, that it helps you a bit. That was my whole goal, is to share some good, healthy recipes, and just to show people there's a lot of food out there you still can eat. Again, it's kind of just opening up the doors and opening up your mindset to trying different things.
Yep. Cool. Well, appreciate you taking time again to join us here. Well, there we have it, everyone. Hope you enjoyed today's interview with Caitlin. Again, I encourage you to head over to her website, truefoodandwellness.com. You can get all of her resources, including her book. Before we sign off for the day, just want to remind everyone of our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/Zero Excuses. Excuses, again, is spelled XCUSES. We'll catch you guys next week. We've got an exciting interview lined up with the one and only Ryan Michler, founder of Order of Man and the Iron Council. Hope you have a great week, and we will talk to you again soon.
This podcast brought to you by Podcast Center LA.